Hello, and welcome to Spooky Reviews. I'm the Ghostess, and today I'm here to give my thoughts on a film I recently saw in theaters, M. Night Shyamalan's thriller, Split. And like a birthday party when you're forced to invite everyone in your class so no one feels left out, this movie's about to be spoiled. You have been warned. So, what happened? We begin with Claire, a teenage girl who feels obligated to invite the awkward and frequently in detention Casey to her birthday party. And when the girl's ride doesn't show, her father offers to drive both Casey and Claire's friend Marcia home. However, while loading the back of his car, the father is knocked out without having a chance to yell, and the trio is kidnapped by a mysterious man. Meet Kevin Wendell Crumb. Or is it Dennis with OCD? Or Barry S. the fashion designer? Or Hedwig the 9-year-old? Or Jade the diabetic? Or Orwell the Islamic historian? Or one of the other many personalities that all inhabit this one man's body? He suffers from dissociative identity disorder, which his therapist believes was the result of child abuse at the hands of his short-tempered mother, allowing him and other people with the disorder to access their brain's full potential and possibly even make them superhuman. While Kevin is usually occupied by a gaggle of benevolent and harmless figures, Dennis and Patricia are relegated to the background, because apparently the voices in your head also have a social hierarchy. And both Patricia and Dennis share more violent tendencies and believe a 24th personality, the Beast, is about to rise. Dennis has kidnapped the girls to feed the Beast, who is here to rid the world of the impure, and the girls are deemed impure for not having suffered in their lives. The girls each use different tactics in the situation. Claire tries flight, escaping into the vent where she is caught by Dennis and thrown into a closet. Marcia tries fight, hitting Patricia with a chair but doesn't get very far before ending up in the closet next to Claire, and Casey tries to adapt, manipulating information out of Hedwig and even making contact with the outside world on Kevin's walkie-talkie to no avail. Whenever he has the chance, Barry emails his therapist to try to get help, forcing Dennis to impersonate Barry to throw her off the trail, which eventually fails and brings her to his door. When the therapist discovers the victims, she ends up drugged and abandoned, while Dennis heads out to the train yard, the last place he saw his father, leaving a bouquet of flowers and transforming into the Beast in an abandoned train car. While he's away, the girls all try to escape, Claire and Marcia with a coat hanger and Casey with a piece of metal used to break down the door. Casey eventually gets to the keys for the building, but is too late to save her partially eaten classmates or the crushed-to-death psychologist. Casey says Kevin's full name like a magic Rumpelstiltskin spell to draw him out just long enough to tell her where the shotgun is before the others return and the Beast rises again. Casey tries to shotgun her way out, but right before she gets got, the killer sees the scars on her body, the result of a molestation backstory that's been pieced throughout the film, and he lets the girl live as she's suffered to the point of being pure. Kevin escapes, Casey is found by a security guard on a smoke break, turns out we were in the Philadelphia Zoo, and we discover Bruce Willis was dead the whole time. I mean, Bruce Willis was unbreakable, and this movie takes place in the same universe. Gut reaction. M. Night Shyamalan finally executed the greatest twist of all time, tricking an audience into seeing an unwanted, Unbreakable sequel. Actually, that's not a twist. Stop calling it that. Because the revelation of David Dunn only means that superhumans in this movie exist in the same universe as Shyamalan's other superhumans. This movie is like Casey's clothing. The reality is slowly revealed as layers are stripped away, and the truth is kept close to the chest, while still being established well enough that it all makes sense in the environment. The movie doesn't take place in our reality, technically, and posits that people with D.I.D. are superhuman. I was taken aback to the point of laughing when I realized that this is really what the movie was going with, because it's fairly unique, but also kinda silly. Then again, I've seen multiple personalities explained in films as aliens, demons, alternate dimensions, clones, and absorbed in the womb twins, but superpowers I haven't seen before. Okay. It raises a lot of weird questions about how this universe works, especially because the therapist acts as the mouthpiece exposition of the universe's cosmology, and says that people with D.I.D. actually internally shapeshift when they change personalities, mind, body, and soul. As far as I know, there's been some evidence of minor changes like blood pressure or IQ, but nothing to the degree that this movie describes. This disorder affects roughly 180,000 people around the world, so is this movie saying all of those people in this universe are superhuman? Or potentially can become superhuman? I think most of my problems with this film would have been solved if Dr. Fletcher only had Kevin as her specific example, which also would have addressed some of the issues with its inaccurate portrayal of D.I.D. Okay, so elephant in the room time. Was I offended by the portrayal of mental illness in this film? If I say yes, I'm a sensitive baby. If I say no, I'm worse than Hitler. But my real answer is kinda. Although there's some debate to D.I.D's legitimacy, whenever you use existing psychological conditions for your movie, and then make a point of saying that people with this condition are somehow other than human, whether less or greater, you're treading in some dangerous waters that's bound to offend people. Because disassociating people with mental illness from humanity is a prevalent issue that has affected people historically throughout time up to today. We once treated them as affected by the devil or cursed, and now we presume they are maniacs in the ex-murderer sense of the word, and I'd be lying to say horror movies don't perpetuate this. It's awful that most people with severe mental disorders are targeted because of societal fears that horror movies perpetuate. And it's statistically true, people with mental disorders are far more likely to be victims of violence than hurt other people. A vast majority of serial killers are not suffering from something like D.I.D. or schizophrenia. But, at the same time, any human being, real or fiction, who premeditates murder in order to satisfy a desire to kill is mentally ill to some degree. Period. So if you're offended by the portrayals of mentally ill as violent, indiscriminate killers, then most horror movies probably aren't for you. I hate to say it, but horror movies aren't about a realistic portrayal of a human being suffering from a condition. Especially not this movie, because it says they're magic. It's about putting ourselves in the shoes of a victim. Horror movies are about creating a space to explore the darkest corners and fears in our mind, where we can examine them to their most extreme limits in a place where they can't do us any actual damage. Be offended, speak out, make a change. But as long as it's a fear humans connect with, you're going to see it in horror movies. They're a reflection of society, not the other way around. Save your energy for unrealistic additions to films like A Beautiful Mind or Patch Adams, which are still playing off stereotypes about people with serious mental disorders and claiming to be an accurate biography of living human beings. While I want to be sensitive to these very real issues, I wouldn't have gone to the movie if I didn't want to see James McAvoy play 23 different characters. And if I were a better person, I probably wouldn't have left the theater wishing I got to see him do all of them. So my questions about this movie don't just stop with how it portrays mental illness. It emphasizes the importance of suffering throughout the film. It's definitely part of the killer's philosophy, but it's also at the core of the therapist's theory, which the movie proves to be true, and it ultimately ends up saving the main character. And I have some issues with this. So the therapist is saying that the trauma that created the multiple personalities within Kevin allowed his brain to work at its fullest potential, enhancing him. So does your suffering make you a better person? Is it what ends up making you greater than other people? Is it true that what doesn't kill you actually makes you stronger? Is suffering a necessary evil for the purpose of transformation? No pain, no gain. Start flogging yourself like a Catholic albino. I mainly take issue when the necessary pain in question is two different forms of child abuse. And I don't really think the movie is proponing child abuse, but I found myself uncomfortable with the way it handled Casey's molestation. I'm just not sure it did the best with the subject matter. Take, for instance, her scars, which are in such a strange place in her body that it forces you to imagine what physically caused them, and I'm still not entirely clear on that. I believe the same could have been accomplished with her just having been beaten as a child like Kevin. At first I thought it added absolutely nothing to the story, but then I thought about the victims' approaches to the situation. The girls most eager to fight and escape their way out are caught and captured. Casey accepts her fate quickly and adapts to the situation well, likely because she already feels imprisoned at home, and this skill is what ultimately allows her to survive the best in the situation. It's an interesting flip on the script I appreciated. I like how it changed the normal horror definition of purity. Clean, pristine, untouched, undamaged, white, virginal, innocent. and it applied it to people that society often treats as the complete opposite of that. I also watched trailers before and after seeing it, and I can tell something was left on the cutting room floor, specifically about the flowers, as the trailer draws your attention to them more than the movie does. I'd be interested to see what the deleted scenes add to this concept. And I don't mean to make it seem like I hated this film, because I really didn't. The message gets a little muddled for me, but I enjoyed the hell out of watching it. The acting is superb from a majority of the actors, especially James McAvoy, Anya Taylor-Joy, and Betty Buckley. Of the I and my lemon drink infamy, yeah, that's the old lady from The Happening, and she kicks ass in this film. The humor never made me roll my eyes and usually came as a direct result of the movie's tension, which actually enhanced what I was watching. Shyamalan has some signature cinematography and dialogue styles that can get in his way sometimes, but it always benefited the story here. Maybe a couple of eye rolls. It was light on the jump scares, but heavy on that juicy tension. So palpable, my friend next to me spent half the film with her coat over her nose like a blanket, ready to pull it over her eyes at any moment. The supernatural elements are built up well throughout the plot, so it doesn't seem entirely out of left field when it changes from pure psychological to supernatural. I thought it was really well done, and I'd recommend it above most other Shyamalan films. It was really fun, and while there are some parts you can make fun of or cringe at, most of it is really well acted, filmed, paced, and it told an interesting story that clearly intrigued me. It's clever, sometimes thinking it's more clever than it is, but it's also fun even when you're picking it apart. 30 seconds for best bits. Go! Abduction scene. James McAvoy. That one shot of the therapist's computer screen when you see the timestamp of each email coming in only minutes apart. When the beast is running back to his house after transforming. Tension so good you could tightrope across it. Hedwig's Kanye dance. The whole introduction scene with Hedwig. The scene in Hedwig's room. The scene in the kitchen with Patricia. James McAvoy. Dennis pretending to be Barry in Dr. Fletcher's office. James McAvoy. The little clues peppered in the set design and dialogue that hint at him being at the zoo. The opening credits sequence. James McAvoy! 30 seconds for nitpicks, go! Who serves fruit with a knife? Did they forget to give the girl playing Marsha any direction? Or did Shyamalan tell her to play the role like your scared wallpaper? Why did Claire and Marsha wait so long to search their rooms for escape tools? How does he keep his job? Did the zoo not notice him squatting, or can you rent the basement of the Big Cat exhibit? Cause sold. Honestly, that'd be dope. I wanna live my Princess Jasmine fantasy with tiger friends. Why'd that guard think his friends were playing a practical joke pretending to be a recently kidnapped missing girl? What kind of friends does he have? Who plays jokes like that? Why wasn't M. Night the security guard? His scene wasn't pointless other than to give him a cameo. Final thoughts. I don't think this is going to become one of my favorites of all time or anything, but it's definitely something I loved watching and would maybe take a second glance at. It was very fun the first time around, and it kept you guessing in a good way. 7 out of 10 spookies. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Follow me at Spooky Ghostess on Twitter, and to see more of my thoughts on the films, visit theghostessreviews.com. Boo for now.